Let's see. Hello. How is everyone doing? I'm gonna bring up the chat.
Think I have it turned on, so everybody should be able to use the chat.
There we go.
I always forget that.
It's hosts and panelists, so I'm gonna change it to everyone.
Oh, mine says everyone.
Oh, mine did not. How is everyone doing? Um, I have to say that I might cough. We all came down with the flu um during the snowstorm, and it has been a long recovery.
We had it before Christmas break, and it did seem like it took a long time to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Wonder why. Oh,
Hello, Kim.
Kim, I was wondering if the chat was not working.
Right.
Thank you.
Nora, my 6-year-old, she was sick on her birthday, and she just told me, she goes, Mom, this is a bit much.
That would be a bit much.
It is a bit much. It is a bit much.
Oh, Taylor likes your haircut.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking particularly white today, as in my hair.
Hey, Dina.
And
Okay, let's see. Well, we haven't had anyone else add, so maybe we can go ahead and get started. What
hello.
time is it? 1:32. Are we
Yeah.
ready to get going?
Yeah, Enid is on, and I heard they had a big tasting this morning, and Barbara Harris was there dressed as a fortune cookie.
I would like to see pictures of that.
I
So,
know.
Enid,
I
if you
hope
guys
somebody
have any,
did take pictures.
please send them our way. We all love Barbara Harris.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. And we're going to talk, our chef Callie is going to talk about improving menu acceptance. I just have a few announcements. Let me move my chat out of the way so I can see Callie's face. Okay. As usual, this is being recorded. We will post it on our website within a week or so if you have anybody that missed out and wants to watch it. Um, you can find it there. Taylor will be sending you an email after the webinar with a link to complete a survey that will generate your certificate. If you're watching as a group, please send me an email. And there's my email address, cass.ring@okstate.edu, with a list of participants and their email address. And that way I can get you added to the roster. You don't have to put it in the chat or you don't have to email me other than that because we do receive a report um, that lets me know who all is on the call. Um, for Kids eKitchen has two new courses that we're really excited about that you can find on our website, Foundations of Flavor and Menu Planning for Child Nutrition. So you can find that on our website, cookingforkids.ok.gov/ekitchen. Um, and we are going to continue to add new courses there throughout the year. We have our save the date for this summer. Registration will open the Monday after our spring break. I think, Callie, are most spring breaks across the state pretty much the same? I feel like it's all kind of the same week.
Yeah, I think it's everybody's pretty much the week of, is it the 15th?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll open registration on our website, and I'll send out an email too, but on March 23rd. We will have our manager and director training here in Stillwater on June 5th, and Chef Callie will be leading that day. And then our skill development trainings all across the state. We have a couple of new locations we're excited about that we have not been. Well, one specifically Podo. So if you're down in that part of the state, we're going to be there at the Career Tech in Podo. But I will leave that just for 1 second if you guys want to snap a picture of that. But I can also send it out after the webinar as well. Okay, and then one last thing. We still have Chef Tim doing on-site chef visits. He can kind of do a couple of different things. He can come in on the school day kitchen visit and kind of do like a menu takeover. So that's great. If there's some new recipes you're wanting to try, he can kind of jump in and help you try those new recipes out. Um, Also, if you've got a professional development day scheduled and you want to do more like classroom focused stuff, he can do that as well. We are scheduling out through September, so this is a good time to get on our list if you want him to come do some like back to school stuff, that week before school or whatever. Go ahead and you can scan that QR code or you can email me and I can send you the link for that registration. But I encourage you to do that. I know September seems like a long time away, but it'll be here before we know it. And those days are limited. So we want to go ahead and get you scheduled if you would like Chef Tim to come out for one of those visits. Okay. Guess
Okay,
well, I'll turn it over to Chef Callie now.
excellent. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is common challenges with menu acceptance, small changes to flavor and texture that will make a difference. So, some quick tips for that. Using familiarity and choice to increase buy-in, and then simple ways to use taste tests to guide your menu decisions. Excuse me. So a lot of you all are probably working on menus currently because you guys are doing your survey for commodities. So hopefully this will be a little bit helpful in trying to get some of that stuff done. So which menu items are left uneaten in your program? Now, how do we gauge this? There are a couple different ways to do this. You can talk to the kids, right? You can walk around the room. You can talk to your ladies and gentlemen in the kitchen. My favorite thing to do is at the end of lunch or breakfast to stand by the trash can and see what gets thrown away. This is definitely something that happens in restaurants to look at menu variety and different things like that. But if you are curious, just go stand next to the trash can and look at all the things that are being thrown away. Okay. And then you can make some judgment calls from there about changing things up and using some of the tips and tricks we're going to cover here in just a minute. So, why do menu items go uneaten? Remember that in your schools, if you're in elementary school, 1/5 of your population leaves at the end of the year and you get a whole new set of taste buds, right? In middle school, 50%, depending on how many grades you have in middle school, right? 50% of your population changes every single year. And then in high school, 25% of your population. So what was not eaten or liked last year doesn't always apply to the next year. Um, so just keep that in mind. Um, Flavor can be too mild or inconsistent. It seems like kids now want really bold flavors, whether it's spicy or citrusy or sweet. They want it to taste very robust. And then texture. Texture is one of the biggest things. How many of you all are texture people? I definitely am. If things are overcooked or undercooked or just not quite right, it turns me off to eating the whole entire thing. And this could be an overcooked piece of broccoli that smells a little weird and looks really terrible, or it could be a rotten piece of lettuce in your salad. It could be so many different things. So putting that little bit of extra care in and watching the texture is so important, right? Um, Items may feel unfamiliar. If you are menuing one of my favorites, baked beans with pizza, just to get your beans in, that can cause some issues for just not having as much buy-in on that. If we're serving baked beans, we need to make sure that the menu complements it. Maybe we're doing a barbecue or some sort of fried chicken or something like crispy chicken. Um, and then lack of choices. We've talked a lot about variety and remembering that your guests in your schools eat at your restaurant 5 times a week, at least 2 times a day. If you had to eat at the same restaurant 5 days a week, at least 2 times a day, what would your expectations be? Okay, they would be probably really high. And to remember that kids are more picky than we are as adults, maybe some of us. Um, we want choices. We want things to be good quality. We want things to be tasty. So, if we're thinking about that as we're building our menus and maybe assessing why things could be uneaten or really liked, we can look at some of that. And then, lack of consistency in making the dish. So, how many of you all do spaghetti, have spaghetti day, right? And if you go to the elementary, it tastes one way. If you go to the middle school, it tastes another way. And then if you go to the high school, it tastes totally different. The lack of consistency in actually the execution of making the dish can have um, a huge impact on the end result of the dish. So making sure that we're training our employees to follow that standardized recipe and making sure that we are using a consistent method of cooking throughout is important. What I with the caveat, if we're talking about spicy, absolutely you can kind of tweak those a little bit for your higher grades that really love spicy, right? Which brings us into texture and flavor, often really easy to adjust. So if we have a middle school and high school that really like spicy, but an elementary school that can't handle it as much, and we're making um, honey sriracha glazed carrots, right? Maybe for the tinies, we just do honey glazed carrots, and then for the older grades, we do honey sriracha. Just making sure that we are paying attention to our age groups and what they like or what they don't want, or maybe just leaving the sriracha off and serving it on the side. Okay. Small changes can improve the acceptance. So maybe not letting things sit in the hot box for too long, right? Um, and then making sure that if we are going to make changes, that we're doing it on familiar foods. So if we're changing broccoli and we're changing the way we're doing that from steamed, a simple change could be that we're roasting it. And then the next time you make it, you can roast it with some garlic and Parmesan. And then the next time you do it, you could do a firecracker sriracha broccoli. And the next time it's a different stir-fried broccoli, right? So, using some different techniques, you can change a familiar food into something that can introduce a lot of new flavors and change your menu quite a bit. Okay. Um, providing um, providing standardized recipes for your staff is another big part of it. Making sure that they have those recipes at their stations so they can follow it. Um, consistently. And so you can provide the same quality product throughout your schools. If you went to a McDonald's in Tulsa and then you went to another McDonald's in Stillwater and you ordered the same thing, you would expect that it would taste the same, right? You all are a restaurant group in your school districts. So making sure that you're using standardized recipes and making things the same consistent quality, even if they're seasoned a little bit different, but the same consistent quality throughout is so important. Okay. And then coming in and spot checking, right? People in the office, if you're not in the kitchen every single day, coming in and spot checking, eating in your kitchens, making sure that if your staff has questions, if they're not doing something um, correctly, that you're able to address it in the moment and just talk them through it. Sometimes when we're in the weeds and we're doing things quickly and we don't have enough time to produce everything, well, we feel like we don't, sometimes that correction in the moment can be very impactful, rather than waiting 2 weeks when we've had several days of just being overwhelmed in the kitchen and then trying to address that. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about flavor. Okay. Who doesn't love flavor? Flavor is one of the strongest drivers. Okay. If you love um, food like I do, you plan your day around what you're going to eat, right? And so flavor is that big factor. So if you want something sweet, if you're a sweets person, you definitely want to feel like eating that cookie is worth it. Right? If you're a spicy person, you want to feel the heat of something. So having those flavors, and having a lot of variety of flavors is really important. Okay. Under seasoned food is not delicious. And I know that Salt is the biggest driver on that, but it doesn't always have to be salt. Salt is just salty. If we add chili powder or cumin or different things like that, we're kind of layering these spices. So we have a little bit of acid, a little bit of heat, a little bit of salty. And so you are creating a lot more depth of flavor. Okay. Um, and if something is well seasoned and well cooked, if they um, choose that food and enjoy it, they're more likely to repeat that very healthy behavior. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about seasoning real quick. You can always add more, right? How many of you all have made tomato sauce and you accidentally add way too much dried oregano and you taste it and it just is so floral you can't even eat it, right? Flavoring and seasoning as we go and tasting the food as we go is so important. We would never serve something that we hadn't tasted first, hopefully, right? This is what we preach to our staff. And so you all do need to get into those kitchens and taste as your employees are making these foods as well. Okay? Um, Making sure that we understand how to flavor food. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But when we talk about flavoring food, automatically your mind goes first to salt. And that's not always the case. But just making sure that your employees understand that that salt is not the first thing that they should reach for. And then also understanding that herbs and spices don't affect the end nutritional result of it, whereas sodium or salt would absolutely absolutely do that. Okay. So we're going to talk about food preparation that later on about how to develop flavor as we're cooking. Okay. Um, and again, we want to use herbs and spices and acids, right? Acid being like a little lemon juice, a little heat, a little vinegar, right? To really flavor and set off those flavors in the foods. Okay. Okay. So, um, when we're flavoring things for multiple batches, we're tasting, just like we said, we're tasting as we go. We want to make sure that if we're seasoning 2 pots of something, we're seasoning the same. Okay. Um, so leaning on flavor profiles that students recognize. Okay. So what are those flavor profiles? Maybe it's for Asian food, it's ginger and garlic and chili flakes. Maybe for Mexican food, it's cumin and cilantro and red onion. Just making sure that we're not going way out there and using like turmeric or curry powder for everything. I absolutely encourage trying new things, but curry powder or ginger or different things like that can a little bit goes a long way and doesn't go with very much of the food that we make in the kitchen, right? So definitely follow the recipe when we're talking about some of those lesser known herbs and spices that we're not used to cooking with. Okay?
Callie, it might be addressed on one of the other slides, but when we're talking about using herbs during the cooking process, isn't there a difference between when to use dried versus fresh? And
Absolutely. And we will talk about that, but to just address it now a little bit. So dried is going to be more concentrated. So we use 1/3 of the amount if the recipe calls for fresh and we only have dried, right? And then dried throughout the cook, if we're going to use it in the cooking process, needs to be rehydrated, and that happens throughout the cooking process. So we do need to add dried herbs a little bit before we would use fresh herbs, just to make sure that we're rehydrating it and getting all that flavor out of there. It's an excellent question. Thanks, Cass. Okay. So, herbs. Herbs are a large group of aromatic plants whose leaves, stems, and flowers are used for flavoring. And you can use it dry or fresh, but there are rules about this. As I just said, dry herbs are more concentrated, so only use 1/3 of the amount when we're substituting dry herbs for fresh. Okay. So, basil. When I say basil, most people think, what? I'm going to make tomato sauce with it. It absolutely has a place in Italian food, but it also has a place in Asian food, right? When we are cooking with basil, we're going to put it in at the end of the cooking process, or we're going to use it as a garnish fresh. If we use it at the beginning of the cooking process, for anything besides like soups or something like that, it turns like black and kind of slimy. So we don't want to do that. Okay. Bay leaves are used at the beginning of the cooking process for things that are going to be cooked for a long period of time. Okay. So, they can rehydrate and get all that beautiful aromatic floral flavor out during the cooking process. One thing to note about bay leaves is you need to take the bay leaf out of said dish before you serve it. These are so fibrous that our bodies cannot break them down, so they're not really great to digest. Okay. Cilantro. When we think about cilantro, we automatically think Mexican food. But this can be used for Middle Eastern food, for Thai food. A lot of Asian foods use cilantro. A fun fact, the stems have more cilantro flavor than the actual leaves do. So absolutely feel free to use those stems. Just stop before they get kind of tough and woody at the end.
What is
Okay.
that called? There's that genetic thing where some people
Oh,
cilantro,
yeah.
it tastes like soap to
Yeah,
them.
like 10% of the population has some sort of genetic mutation where cilantro tastes like soap. I can't remember what that's called.
So
Anybody
Jenny,
know?
if anybody remembers Jenny Till, that used to, I'm
Yeah.
sure she didn't care. I'm calling her out on this, but she could it, and I don't know why I think that's so crazy to think about that, but
It
anyway.
is really strange. Oh, Tiffany from
Oh.
Philcord. I'm not surprised. I don't know why. You strike me as someone who would have that, Tiffany.
I'm sorry, Tiffany.
Oh, look at this. Taylor says cilantro tastes like soap to roughly 4 to 21% of the population due to genetic variation in olfactory receptor genes. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's interesting.
As per
I'm
Google AI.
I'm glad that I don't have that.
Right. I love cilantro.
I
I
love
love it in
cilantro.
everything.
It tastes so this is fresh tasting,
Yeah.
refreshing.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. But you can use it across the board for many different things. And don't shy away from using those stems, at least the tops of the stems, not the bottom. Okay. Um, dill. Dill is not something you were going to use very much in the kitchen, dry or otherwise. It's a very delicate herb. You're going to probably use it mostly for like chicken a salad or egg salad or um, anything that's kind of delicate, dressings, that sort of thing. During the cooking process, we would absolutely add it at the end, or if we're like steaming fish or something like that, a very gentle cooking process, we can put that on top. Okay. Excuse me. Mint, when we think about mint, we often think about desserts or tea, but it's also used in Middle Eastern cooking. They love it with lamb. In Indian cuisine, they put it in a lot of their curry dishes and just adds such like a bright, delightful flavor. So kind of think about um, outside the box uses of some of these herbs. Okay. Next is parsley. Parsley is just like multi-purpose workhorse of all the herbs. You can use it in about anything. Sauces, soups, garnishing, salads, salsas, all sorts of stuff. And again, the leaves are going to have less parsley flavor than the stems. So don't shy away from using some of those stems. But stop again before it gets woody or tough. You want to use the ones that are tender. Okay. Rosemary is a very potent herb. It has such a beautiful piney, peppery flavor. It is great for roasting things. When we are cooking with rosemary, especially dry, we want to use it at the beginning of the cooking process and be able to cook it out just because it has such a very potent flavor. So it's great for roasting vegetables. It's beautiful on potatoes and chicken. And we're going to do kind of the same thing with thyme. Um, the time you do have to those stems are just not delightful to eat. You can eat the little leaves of thyme, whereas rosemary leaves are just very noshy, right? So you probably don't want to serve those whole. You would want to dice those up a little bit more. But the thyme leaves are so tiny. If you want to pick all those tiny little leaves off those stems, great. One of my favorite things to do that saves time, but still imparts a lot of flavor is just take the whole thyme stem, leaves, and all, and kind of put it on top of what you're cooking, and then toss it periodically through the cooking process, and then take those stems out after you're done and ready to serve. Okay. So those were herbs. Spices are also a large group of aromatic plants whose barks, roots, seeds, buds, or berries are used. Um, Used in dry form, they can come whole or ground. Okay, you can totally make your own spice mixes. I know a lot of schools make their own taco seasoning or their own ranch seasoning, and you can totally do that using just a variety of things that you have in your pantry, which
And
is really
that would be a much easier way to control the sodium, I would imagine,
absolutely it is.
on your own.
Absolutely it is. Yep. So I'm going to talk about a couple of these. I'm going to kind of group these together just a little bit. So cayenne pepper, paprika, and chili powder. Excuse me. Um, you want to use these throughout the cooking process. And at the very beginning of the cooking process, when you put your oil in your pan, you want to add a little bit of these spices into the oil to kind of awaken some of that flavor and spice at the beginning. And you're going to be building your flavor on that. Um, if we make something like chili and it has cayenne pepper and paprika and chili powder and cumin and all of those spices, and we just add them all at the beginning and just come back 30 minutes later after it's simmered, is it going to taste real great? Probably not. We got to add these throughout the cooking process and adjust. Um, One of the reasons for that is that cayenne pepper, paprika, chili powder, cumin, the longer they've been on your shelf, the less flavorful they will be. So, depending on the age and how they're stored, um, definitely has an impact on the end product of that spice. So, if you have spices that have been in your dry storage for over a year without being used up, you should probably throw those out because they're not going to have as much flavor. Okay. Um, Crushed red pepper, a little bit goes a long way. Again, opening some of that flavor up in the beginning of the cooking process with your oil is a really good idea, or adding them if you don't want it as spicy, add it towards the end. The longer that crushed red peppers or chilies are cooked, the more potent they become. So just be careful with that. Okay. And then cinnamon, ground or whole, have two very different uses. So ground cinnamon, we're usually going to use in baking, sometimes in sauces like mole or a curry or different things like that. Whereas the sticks, we're going to use for things that are going to be cooked over a long period of time. Roasts, apple cider, anything like that is we're going to use it in whole form so it can just slowly dissipate in the food. Um, so. And then cumin, we talked a little bit about that when we talked about the cayenne pepper and chili powder, but cumin is one of my favorite spices just because it's not just one flavor. It is a little nutty. It's a little roasty toasty. It has a little bit of acid. It also has the highest naturally occurring sodium of all the spices. So putting a little bit of cumin in, starting with cumin, for any like of your chilies or even some of your soups and your Mexican food and even your Asian food, can go a long way in starting the progress of flavoring so you don't have to use as much salt at the end of things. Okay. Let's talk about ginger and turmeric and curry powder all kind of together. Now, these are very potent, very, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, very specific flavors. There we go. So a little bit goes a very long way. And these ginger, turmeric, curry powder, and even ground mustard to an extent are not ones that you just want to like, oh, this looks cool, pick it up and just shake it in and be like, it's gonna be great, right? That's how my husband cooks, and it's never turns out very well for him. Um, yeah, it's a little rough. It's a little rough. One time he put mustard powder and turmeric and scrambled eggs, and it was um rough. It was real rough. Um So these are not ones to just be kind of experimented. Oh, I'm just going to throw a little bit of this and that and the other in. These you definitely want to follow the recipe as far as the measurements and everything, because they do have such a potent flavor, and they can get real spicy real fast, especially with the ginger, mustard, and curry powder. Okay. Nutmeg, we usually in the States use it primarily for baked goods. The French put it in pretty much everything, cream soups, potatoes. It's extremely misguided in my opinion, but the French. Black pepper is one of the most widely used spices in the world. Um, so you have white pepper and black pepper. Is there a difference? Absolutely. Black pepper is more of like a tongue heat and it's very complementary to things. White pepper will get you in the back of the throat real fast. It's very spicy. Um, so you want to be very careful if you have black pepper in your kitchen, you're going to want to use that super sparingly. And if you're making like mashed potatoes and your kids don't like to see the black pepper flakes in those, that's totally fine to use white pepper. Just use a little bit and then taste, and then you can adjust the seasoning. A little bit goes a very long way with white pepper. Okay. So this is how I learned how to cook. Not necessarily with recipes, but with flavor profiles. And this can be really helpful when you're thinking about making tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce, or you just have crushed tomatoes in your store, but you're needing to make spaghetti sauce. Where do you even start? You start with basil, oregano, garlic, chili flakes, and just making sure that you have kind of your foundation of Italian spices in there. Now, am I going to use basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, garlic, chili flakes, and parsley all together in one dish? Probably not. Probably not. But these form the foundational spices of Italian cooking. Whereas Indian food is definitely garlic, ginger, coriander, chili flakes, and chili powder. Am I going to use all of that in one dish? Maybe. But I'm going to be very picky on how I put that together, and we're going to taste as we go. And then down at the bottom, it has it broken down by food groups. What goes really well with peas, dill, parsley, mint. Am I going to put dill and mint in the same dish? Probably not, because the mint is absolutely going to overpower the dill, and you're not even going to taste it. But could I put dill and parsley together? Probably. That would be a little bit of a better fit. So just kind of thinking about things in those ways. This actually is an excerpt from a book called The Flavor Bible. It is a fantastic reference book. And if you just are into food and flavor, it's definitely a fun book to have on your shelf just to kind of flip through if you're in a rut and you want to, spice things up a little bit, figuratively and literally. So, this is also a part of our desk reference book that some of you all have. And if you want that, do we have any of those extra in the office, Cass?
No,
You,
but if you attend one of our summer trainings this summer, you will get a copy.
yeah, there we go.
I
Shameless
could
plug for summer training.
I could send it electronically if you did want like a PDF version of it, but we are out of the hard copies till this summer.
Perfect. Um, so this is just some basic things that you guys serve all the time. Carrots, peas, beans, corn, potatoes, and using something like this is like giving this to your employees and saying you can use these things in this dish without altering the nutritional components of this dish gives them a little bit of freedom inside the very small child nutrition box that we have them in. Um, so it's a really good reference for them and allows them to still practice creativity within the small parameters that we have. So, okay, let's talk about texture and cooking methods. Okay. Excuse me. So, cooking methods definitely have an effect on texture, right? Something that's roasty might be a little crispy and crunchy on the outside with a tender, delicious inside. Something that's stir-fried can still be very crunchy. Things that have been sitting in the hot box too long are always weird and mushy, right? Texture plays a huge role, and your cooking methods dictate what texture you're going to have, okay? So, students react to texture before flavor. How many of you all, sometimes you're not craving any specific flavor or food, but you just need something crunchy? I am definitely one of those people, right? Or you just need something creamy, right? Kids are the same way. So, making sure that you have a variety of textures on your menu, is very important. Okay. Small adjustments can improve the texture without changing the menu. Okay. Um, so if somebody doesn't like steamed broccoli, they might like roasted broccoli or stir-fried broccoli. Okay. Cass, can you flip back to that last slide? Because that new little, if students say they don't like a food, texture is often the issue, not the ingredient itself. So let's talk about that just a minute. So how many of you all like, um, steamed beets versus roasted beets versus pickled beets, right? It changes the texture. The texture is very different on all of those, and it can definitely affect flavor perception. What about steamed carrots versus roasted carrots versus raw carrots?
My kids are very much, when it comes to carrots, they will eat raw carrots, but they don't want them cooked.
Mine are the same. It's
I
the
think that's
weirdest
a common
thing.
thing.
Right. They don't want raw broccoli and they don't like steamed broccoli, but they'll eat roasted broccoli,
I
right?
agree, Tiffany. Roasted.
Roasted is elite, Tiffany. Thank you. Thank you. I truly believe that roasted is how God intended us to eat all our vegetables. Roasted and I'll eat it, right? Let's talk about steamed asparagus or canned asparagus versus roasted or grilled asparagus, right? There is definitely a hierarchy of cooking methods for different vegetables. Okay. Um, yeah, roasted veggies, all of them, all of them. I love it. Okay, now can we go to the next slide? Sorry, Cass. Thank you for going back for me. So vegetables that are overcooked and mushy are never good. I know there are some of you all out there that will tell me that you like an overcooked vegetable. My husband loves overcooked broccoli, and I am
Oh,
just like,
I
you will
can't
cook
do
it
that.
yourself. I cannot do it. I can physically not handle it. So are there those one-off variety of people who like overcooked vegetables? Sure. Sure, but that's not the majority of the kids, right? Especially with broccoli or peas or cabbage. Those sorts of vegetables, if you overcook them, they get that weird smell that is not great. And if you are walking into a restaurant that you have to eat in 5 days a week, at least 2 times a day, what do you want it to smell like? Overcooked broccoli or delicious roasty, toasty garlic and Parmesan? I'm going with garlic and Parmesan, right? Okay. Um, so lack of contrast is definitely an issue. Kids don't want to eat baby food. They don't want to eat things that are super mushy. So making sure that we are taking care of the vegetables that we are cooking, we're putting a little more love into them and cooking them correctly, right? The second part of that is texture changes in the hot box. Okay. What temperature is that hot box? At least 165, right? What happens when you take a hot pan of something and put it in a hot box? It continues to cook. So making sure that we're keeping we want to serve hot food, right? But we're keeping in that hot box for as little time as possible is great. Also paying attention to if you have steamed broccoli, roasted broccoli, any sort of something, if you cover it, what happens? It continues to cook, especially if you're doing roasted anything or crispy anything. We absolutely need to take care that we are not covering that so it doesn't get soggy, mushy, and disgusting. Okay? Okay. So, cooking method affects flavor. I am a huge believer in this. Roasting creates a firmer texture with crispy edges. Love it. Steaming preserves the color but softens the texture very quickly. Steamed vegetables are not supposed to be mushy. They are still supposed to have texture. Steaming is not a set it and forget it cooking method. Okay. Boiling can lead to very soft or mushy vegetables. Also, many of the vitamins and minerals in vegetables are water soluble. So, cooking them in the least amount of water possible is the way to go because you don't want to drain out all those great and minerals, vitamins and minerals, because what is the entire point of eating vegetables? For the vitamins and minerals, right? Okay, so making sure that we are cooking them properly in the least amount of water possible is really important. Okay, and then holding time we just talked about. So, excuse me, our first cooking method we are talking about, and I know that we've mentioned steaming several times. Steaming is probably one of the most popular ways of cooking things in child nutrition, right? How much flavor does it impart? Is it roasty toasty? Is it crunchy? No, it's not. It's just mushy. And steamed vegetables are very hard to season. Okay. I know some kids love the steamed vegetables, and I'm not saying you shouldn't ever steam vegetables. I'm just saying maybe it shouldn't be your primary cooking method for your vegetables. Okay. Um, Steam vegetables as close to surface as possible to preserve quality. Um, and then if we're steaming, sorry, brain's not working. If we're steaming frozen vegetables, maybe we slack it out overnight just to make sure that we have a consistent um, cook throughout. Because if we have a whole bunch of frozen vegetables, the outside is going to be so cooked and mushy, and the inside is still going to be frozen. So making sure that maybe we're slacking those out so we get a very even cook on those. Okay. Roasting, love it. Dry cooking method, dry heat. Um, Great for heart vegetables, great for root vegetables, allows for marinating glazes, herbs, very easy to season, holds up really well. Um, when we are roasting, we need to think about a single layer on that sheet pan, right? If we have a whole mound or stack, the outside will be roasty toasty. What happens to the inside? It's going to steam and be all mushy and not have any delicious roasty toasty on it, right? So if we are roasting, we want to turn that oven up real high to 400 to 425, because what we're trying to do is evaporate all that liquid that's being put off by those vegetables as quickly as possible to then caramelize those sugars on the outside to give us that roasty, toasty texture. Okay. Braising. Braising is great for fibrous things like cabbage or kale or mustard greens. It's going to be a little bit more of a cooking or a longer cooking method. We're going to fill this pan of whatever it is, kale, with liquid halfway up. Okay, I know I just finished saying don't cook things in liquid, but with braised items, these vegetables are usually very mineral and vitamin dense. So cooking them doesn't break them down as quickly because they're more dense. Also, it's more acceptable for it to be a little soupy and liquidy, and people are going to eat that liquid or consume that liquid. Okay. Some cooking tips to start your braising cooking method. We're going to take oil and all your aromatics, your onions, your garlic, and saute them a little bit in your oil before you're adding the bulk of the greens and the liquid in there. So making sure that we're covering that pan really tight before we put it in the oven or keep it on the stovetop. Okay.
Did I skip too fast?
No,
Do you want
you're
me to
fine.
go?
The next cooking method is stir fry. It is a fast cooking method, right? You should never stir fry anything for longer than 5 to 7 minutes. Okay. When was the last time you got takeout from your favorite Chinese food place? You got some stir fried vegetables. Are they mushy? No, they are still very crisp. They might have just a tiny bit of roasty toasty on the outside, but that texture is still firm. So stir fry, very fast cooking method, great for imparting flavor with garlic and ginger, sauces, different things like that. You can stir fry even if you do not have a wok. You can do it in your tilt skillet, you can do it on your stovetop. You just want to make sure that your pan is absolutely hot when you start adding your food to it, and just make sure you're keeping it moving during the cooking method. Okay?
Two notes here I wanted to mention.
Sure.
If they're wanting to try like roasting vegetable or any of these techniques and are kind of hesitant or new to it, we do have recipes for roasting. We've got carrots, we've got sweet potatoes. That'll give you kind of step by step, temp, all that stuff on our website. And then also, if you have another plug for summer training, if you haven't been to summer training, you'll get hands-on experience with all these cooking methods there. So,
Yeah, and we also do a tasting of different cooking methods with each other just to kind of walk through should this vegetable should we be steaming bell peppers? Probably not. So we walk through that with everyone who comes through the summer training as well, which is really great. Come hang out with us. Batch cooking and hot holding best practices, right? Batch cooking is important. How many of you all, when you get off work this afternoon, gonna go down to Quick Trip and get one of those hot dogs that's been rolling on the roller for a couple hours, or grab one of those donuts that was fried at 2 o'clock this morning? Probably none of us, right? That sounds really terrible. Why would you serve food to children that have been sitting in the hot box for a long time? Okay, so. I know I always get in trouble when I say this, but making sure that your lunch break does not coincide with your coming off lunch break to go serve kids, right? Because you need time to cook, right? We should not be cooking all the food, putting it in the hot box and going to our 30, 45-minute lunch break. That is way too long for any sort of vegetable or crispy item to be held in that hot box. And I guarantee the majority of you all wouldn't want to eat something that's been held in that hot box for a long period of time. Okay? So there's nothing wrong about taking something directly out of the oven and putting it onto your serving line. That is fresh, hot food that's going to be more delightful. Okay. Making sure that we have someone designated to check those ovens and rotate, right? It does take a little bit of extra time to batch cook, but how many of you all would love to just wait 3 extra seconds for a freshly cooked something that's just out of the oven? Excuse me. And it doesn't take very long to grab something out of the oven and just put it on the line, right? Okay. Best practice is not holding things in the hot box for over 20 minutes, if possible. Now, some of you guys, I understand, don't have breaks between your lunches, and that makes it really hard. But that's where batch cooking also just you're going straight from the oven to the serving line. Okay. Okay, let's talk about choice and familiarity. Okay, so students like to have control over what they eat, right? Where is the one place in their school day that they get to make decisions? It's in the cafeteria, right? The cafeteria should be a very fun, comforting place. And this is why having options on your menu that are very familiar and warm, like mashed potato day or beef stew day, are very important for your students, right? Okay. We want to in doing that, create familiarity, but then also we can totally season something a little bit different just to kind of give a little pizzazz to things. Okay. Presentation matters. Students eat with their eyes and their nose first, right? If it doesn't look good or smell good, they're probably not going to choose to eat that thing, right? Okay. Um, Small choices increase buy-in and reduce resistance. Tastings are important. Okay. I know it's commodity season. You guys are choosing um, thousands of pounds worth of things to bring in. We want to make sure that those kids like that thing, right? Food is not nutritious unless it's eaten. So if it's going to go into the trash can, it's not doing anyone any good except wasting taxpayer dollars, right? So making sure that we are putting a little extra love and thought into the food and making sure it's the best quality possible is really important. Okay. Um, Choice doesn't have to mean more work or more options. Just making sure that you're offering a variety of cooking methods. You're offering a variety of seasonings. You're offering a variety of um, fruits and vegetables on your salad bar. This is all part of choices that can increase the variety on your menu without adding a whole bunch of work. Okay. So offer hot and cold vegetable option. Okay, that is one way to offer a simple choice. My kids are on a raw vegetable kick. They only want to eat carrots and what else do they eat? Mainly just carrots and tomatoes right now. Nothing cooked. I don't know what they're on about. It's what it is.
cucumbers. We talked about that
Oh,
last.
cucumbers. We go through probably like 6 cucumbers a week, and my kids are tiny. Like I don't get it. Nothing cooked at all. Okay. If they're cooked vegetables, they're like, it is a fight every time. So offering a hot vegetable and a cold vegetable offers a choice for those kids, and they still get a vegetable that they're actually eating, which is very important. Okay. Offer the same vegetable with two different seasoning options. This can seem like a lot of work, but if you have a flavor station or a sauce bar or something like that, that can create a lot of variety and choice as well. Okay. Um, Pairing new or adjusted items with a familiar entree. If we are having um, chicken Alfredo, the most classic pairing with chicken Alfredo is steamed broccoli. What if we were to do a garlic Parmesan roasted broccoli? That's adding a lot of variety and a lot of flavor to something familiar. Okay. Um, and then pairing it with low calorie dips, sauces, a sauce bar. I love a sauce bar. Having a white bean dip or a hummus or different things like that, a low fat ranch. We all know that we're in Oklahoma and ranch is a blood type. We're not going to get out of it. Just make sure that we have a variety of sauces planned for creating variety on our menus. Okay. Then taste tests. We harp on taste tests a lot. But if you yourself were eating at the same restaurant 5 days a week, 2 times a day, would you want to have a say in the menu? The answer is most definitely yes, right? You would want to make sure that you liked what was on the menu and make sure that, you know, you can tell your friends that you had a say, right? How many of you all also go to Sam's or Costco on sample day and get roped in to buying something based off the sample? Me, this one right here. Um, so taste test is so important, okay? It also will be your future self will thank you because you're going to have a lot less heartache of like changing the menu and different things like that. What do I do with these 5,000 pounds of chicken that nobody wants to eat or that pork or whatever it is? So making sure that we're doing a taste test is very important, okay? There are definitely a lot of different ways to do taste tests. We did a whole entire webinar about taste testing. So if you have any questions, just reach out about that, right? Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to hurry. So taste tests can be used to explore new flavors of something. So if you're going to try a new cooking method or a new flavor, a taste test is a wonderful way to roll that out. Okay. Socially influenced choices. If we're doing taste testing and a kid likes it, to vote, like putting a sticker on a chart, or come giving a high five or something like that, they're going to feel included. And again, if you had to eat at the same restaurant 5 days a week, 2 times a day, you would want to feel included in the choices that were being made there. Okay. Repetition for palate development. A lot of kids need to taste something, a new flavor, several times before it becomes familiar and widely accepted to them. So just because one day your honey sriracha chicken didn't take and wasn't the favorite, doesn't mean you should never put it on your menu again. It means that maybe you just need a little bit more time to for your kids to adjust or recognize that flavor. Okay. Taste testing helps grow healthy habits. So making sure that we have a lot of nutritious options on your salad bar that they can taste test, or having a little new vegetable or your fruit and vegetable grant, new items. Tasting definitely helps with growing better habits. Okay. And then we want to have positive food experiences in the cafeteria. If you have a bad food experience, a lot of emotions are going to be associated with that. And you're maybe not going to want to eat in the cafeteria again. But if there are constantly fun things, new things, a variety of things, you're not always going to feel like you have to eat the same thing over and again. So it will foster a positive experience. Okay. Making sure that if we are going to do a taste test, it is going to be something that we are going to put on the menu. It's not going to just be like a one-off. Because if you're going to put enough or that much work into a taste testing, you want to make sure that it's worth your while. Okay. Making sure that you're choosing the right taste test style for your kitchen or for your grade level. For elementary kids, maybe putting just a little bite-sized piece in a small cup and putting it on their tray, or taking a cart in between the tables and asking kids if they want to try something. Whereas for your older grades, you can be a little bit more hands off and ask them from the line, oh, do you want to try this new thing? right? Or setting up a table or something like that.
Maybe even
Making sure that, I'm sorry,
focusing on specific grade levels, not the whole.
not doing everybody all at once. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then making sure that your students know that it's coming up, maybe putting it on the menu. You try it Tuesdays once a month. Mix it up Mondays. Maybe don't do a tasting on a Monday because that's really hard for your kitchens. But making sure that we're announcing it. Maybe we have a sign or a poster that we put up every time that we have have a tasting is a good way to get more students in there and more student engagement. And maybe we'll bring in students that don't normally eat in the cafeteria for a taste test. Okay. The next thing, right? I don't remember what happened yesterday. So if I do a tasting and I'm like, raise your hand if you liked it, say boo if you didn't like it, I am not going to be able to remember. So having something that's tangible, like a sticker chart or a survey or something like that, is so important for your students to be able to give feedback that's actually measurable, that you can either take for justifying a more expensive product or a different product to your administration if they're giving pushback, or you can show your staff that, hey, they really did like this, or they didn't like it. It is just a really great way to process that data. Okay. Obviously, following food safety is an absolute must. Gloves, washing hands, making sure the kids don't touch everything, maybe having a hand sanitizer bottle on the tasting table. All of that sort of thing is definitely necessary when doing taste testing again. Okay. So we do want to pay attention to the results of the taste test. So making sure that we are reviewing that with our staff. You also want to get feedback from your staff about what was easy or what was overly difficult about making the taste test, and see if you can problem solve and troubleshoot some of those items with your staff as well. That will definitely help them feel involved and maybe more open to doing more taste testings. Okay. Free posters, always a really great thing. The USDA has a lot of free resources. Don't reinvent the wheel. Um, so you can get on USDA.gov and download some of these resources. And I would definitely encourage you all to do that.
We also have some ballots you can print off of our website as well under the resources section.
I forgot about those. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so hopefully you guys took some information away from this that's useful. Um, but just remember that if something is not accepted or well accepted, let's look at the flavor, let's look at the cooking method, let's look at the texture first before we throw it out the window. Okay, addressing some of those issues. Are we holding it too long in the hot box? Are we following the recipe? Do we need to adjust the herbs and spices? All of these things, these are questions that need to be asked before we just throw out a recipe, right? Presentation absolutely matters. Kids eat with their eyes. If you had to eat at the same restaurant 5 days a week, 2 times a day, you would want things to look really nice, okay? So if something is discolored or not brown enough or just too blah, it's going to affect the perception, the perceived taste perception of that food. So making sure that we're doing things properly and it looks nice is very important. It smells good. Um, and then using familiar items to increase choices and increase buy-in is so important. And then I hope you guys do a taste test at least a couple of times a year, just to make sure that your students feel included in the decisions that are being made in their cafeteria. So, any questions? I know that was a lot of info. I am always afraid that I'm not going to be able to find enough to talk about in these webinars, and like I get super nervous. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up.
Hit
So
it right on target.
thank you, Marshall. Where are you from, Marshall? Your name doesn't seem familiar. Marshall Colbert. I don't know where she's from. Lawton.
From
Okay.
Lawton.
Hello, Lawton. We're doing a summer training down in Lawton. You
We
should come
are.
back in.
Chef Tim will be down there. We hope you get to
Yeah.
join.
Yeah. Those summer trainings are my favorite things ever. I mean, it's just so great to get a whole bunch of different schools together and see what everyone is having issues with or what people are doing well. And the fun thing is like you just we're all facing all the same issues. It's just different in how we handle it. And it's a great brainstorming session every single time. I love those summer trainings. Yeah.
I do want to mention really quick before we jump off of here, we are not going to be hosting a webinar for March. Spring break. We're going to take March off, but we'll be back again in April. We haven't nailed down the date yet, but I'll be sure and let everyone know. And it will be again on our website
Yay.
along on the calendar.
Yeah. Hi, Betty. Good to see. I always smile when I see your name on there. I haven't seen you in forever. Hopefully you're doing well. Okay.
Okay.
Well, you guys have an awesome rest of your week. It is hump day. And the weather is amazing, at least here. So hopefully you guys can get outside and enjoy
Hey,
the
Darla.
sunshine. Hi, Darla.
Okay, well, thanks so much, and we will see you all in April.
Okay. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.